இன்றைக்கு நாம் காணவிருக்கும் நிகழ்ச்சி சென்னை தாஜ் கன்னிமராவில் காலநிலை மாற்றம் மற்றும் வெள்ள ஆபத்து நடவடிக்கைகள் குறித்து விவாதித்த சென்னை நீர் மேலாண்மைக்கான செயல் திட்டம் எனும் தலைப்பில் நடைபெற்ற கருத்தரங்கம். வாருங்கள் பார்க்கலாம். முதலாவதாக முன்னாள் தமிழ்நாடு வனத்துறை அதிகாரி மற்றும் கேர் எர்த் ட்ரஸ்ட் மூத்த ஆலோசகர் முனைவர் எஸ் பாலாஜி அவர்கள் பேசிய வரவேற்பு உரையின் துணுக்குகள் உங்களுக்காக.
If we want to restore these water bodies, I feel some kind of a legislation is required. They have to be declared as sort of a protected areas. Based on my experience as a forest officer, I can say, fortunately, over the years we have been able to protect our forests free of encroachment in many places. There are some hiccups here and there also, but mostly that is, and even Pallikarnai Marsh was also declared as under section 4 as a forest area. Then only it was able to be protected. Otherwise, many of it also would have disappeared. What we see now would have also disappeared. So I feel we need a strong legal backing for protecting the area. First thing, and followed by in fact, I don't know what Dr. Jayashree has mentioned the various strategies. So I think Ms. Anjana will be explaining about that. And this blue-green linkage is very important. So we have to green our Chennai more, because these greenery not only providing more oxygen and better livability, they also store water underneath. Each tree is like a water storage tank. In the root zone, they store water. And it is also a kind of a natural rainwater harvesting. So we have to increase our greenery, and at the same time, we have to protect whatever water bodies are remaining, so that for a future generation, we will be able to live a better place to live in.
இந்நிகழ்வில் பசுமை தாயகத்தின் தலைவர் முனைவர் திருமதி சௌமியா அன்புமணி அவர்கள் சிறப்பு விருந்தினர்
எல்லாரும் வெளியிட்டிருக்கிறோம். இது ஒரு முக்கியமான ஆவணம். இந்த ஆவணம் மூலமாக சென்னையில் இருக்கக்கூடிய பல்வேறு இடங்களில் நீர் பிரச்சனை மட்டுமல்ல, வாழ்வாதாரங்களும் எப்படி பாதிக்கப்பட்டிருக்கிறது என்பதை பற்றிய ஒரு காம்ப்ரிஹென்சிவ் டாக்குமெண்ட். அதாவது எல்லாமே, தண்ணி பிரச்சனையா இருக்கட்டும், இல்ல வாழ்வாதார பிரச்சனையா இருக்கட்டும், இல்ல சுகாதார பிரச்சனையா இருக்கட்டும், அதை பற்றியெல்லாம் ஒரு முழுமையான ஒரு ஆவணத்தை இன்று அவங்க புத்தக வடிவமாக வெளியிட்டிருக்கிறார். இது எதுக்காகனா, இது மக்களுக்கான பயன்பெறும் ஒரு ஆவணமாக மட்டும் இல்ல, மக்களை பற்றிய ஒரு ஆவணம் தான் இது. நம்ம சென்னையை சுற்றி நமக்கு நிறைய நீர்நிலைகள் இருக்கின்றன. அதாவது அடையாறு இருக்கிறது, கூவமாறு இருக்கிறது, கொற்றலை ஆறு இருக்கிறது, செம்பரம்பாக்கம் ஏரி இருக்கிறது, புழல் இருக்கிறது, பூண்டி ஏரி இருக்கிறது, சோழாவரம் ஏரி இருக்கிறது, பள்ளிக்கரணை சதுப்பு நிலம் இருக்கிறது, மனிதர்களால் உருவாக்கப்பட்ட பக்கிங்ஹாம் கால்வாய் இருக்கிறது. இத்தனை இருந்தும் ஏன் தண்ணீர் பிரச்சனை இருக்கிறது என்பதுதான் மிகப்பெரிய கேள்வி. இதைவிட அதிகமாக நமக்கு தமிழ்நாட்டில் கிடைக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு ஆண்டு மழை அளவை விட சென்னைக்கு அதிகமான மழை பெய்கிறது. இருந்தாலும் நம்மால் ஒரு சொட்டு தண்ணீரை கூட சேமிக்க முடியவில்லை. அதையெல்லாம் கடலுக்கு வீணாக செல்கின்றது. இப்ப கிராமத்துல தண்ணீர் இல்லாதனால தான் இங்க வந்திருக்காங்க. அர்பனைசேஷன் நம்ம பெருமையா சொல்லிக்கிறோம், ஆனா அது அர்பனைசேஷனே கிடையாது, காலநிலை அகதிகள் தான் சொல்லணும். ஏன்னா கிராமத்துல தண்ணீர் இல்லாம வாழ முடியாம அவங்கள சென்னைக்கு வந்திருக்கிறாங்கன்றதுதான் அர்த்தம். பாதி பேர், நிறைய எல்லாரும் சொல்ல மாட்டேன். அப்படி இருக்கும்பொழுது தண்ணீர் பிரச்சனை எப்படி நம்ம தீர்க்கிறது என்பதை பற்றி எல்லாம் இந்த ஆவணங்கள்ல சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. இதெல்லாம் நம்ம ஒரு ஆதாரமாகவோ ஒரு கைடன்ஸாகவோ ஒரு வழிகாட்டியாக எடுத்துக்கொண்டு நிறைய விஷயங்களை நாம தயார் செய்யும் போது இதையெல்லாம் மனதில் வைத்து கொண்டு எங்க வீடு கட்டுவது, எங்க பார்க் கட்டுவது, எங்க தெருக்களை போடணும், எந்த இடத்துல மரங்களை நடணும், எந்த இடத்துல பூங்காக்களை அமைக்கணும் என்பதை பற்றியெல்லாம் விரிவாக ஒரு ஆராய்ச்சி செய்து இதெல்லாம் இந்த ஆவணங்கள்லாம் வழிகாட்டியாக அமைந்திருக்கின்றது. இதெல்லாம் நாம் செய்தாலே சென்னைக்கு ஒரு மிகப்பெரிய தீர்வு ஏற்படும்.
இப்போ பொதுப்பணித்துறையில் அந்த வாட்டர் ரிசோர்சஸ் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் இருக்குல்ல, அதில் ஃபண்ட்ஸே இருக்கிறது இல்லை. பார்த்தீங்கன்னாலே தெரியும், பட்ஜெட்டில் இது ரொம்ப காலமாகவே பட்ஜெட்டில் அதிக பணம் ஒதுக்கிறது இல்லை. அவங்களால எந்த ஏரியும் ஒழுங்காக பராமரிக்க முடியறதில்லை. அது எங்கே, நான் சொல்கிறது கிராமங்களில். இங்கே நகர்ப்புற விளிம்புகளில் இருக்கிற அந்த ஏரிகள்லாம் நாசமாகிக்கொண்டே வருகிறது. எல்லாம் சாக்கடை தண்ணி, இப்படி நிறைய பிரச்சனை இருக்குது. ஏதாவது ஒரு ஏரியை எடுத்து அதனுடைய கெப்பாசிட்டியை அதிகப்படுத்தி நல்லா பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு எங்களை மாதிரி NGOs போனால் அந்த ஊரில் இருக்கிற தலைவர்கள் ஒத்துழைக்கிறதே இல்லை. இது ஒரு பெரிய பிரச்சனை. தற்செயலாக பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இங்கே நாங்கள் போய் உணவாஞ்சேரியில் போய் ஒரு ஏரியா எடுத்து செய்ய போனோம். நல்ல வேலையாக மேடம் கட்சியில் இருக்கிற ஒருத்தர் தான் அந்த ஊர் தலைவர். அவர் ஒருத்தர் தான் எங்களுக்கு நல்ல ஒத்துழைப்பு கொடுத்தார். இதே மாதிரி எல்லா தலைவர்களும் இருந்தாங்கன்னா எங்களுக்கு பிரச்சனையே இல்லை. ஆனால் கேட்குறது என்ன தெரியுமா, ஒரு ஊரில் போய் வேலையை ஆரம்பிச்சோன்னு ஊர் தலைவர் கேட்கறது இதுக்கு எவ்வளோ பட்ஜெட்டு. அதனால் கொஞ்சம் ஒத்துழைப்பு மட்டும் இருந்ததுன்னா மக்களுடைய ஒத்துழைப்பும் இருக்கணும். இப்போ பார்த்தீங்கன்னா எங்களுக்கு அங்கே உணவாஞ்சேரியில் பெரிய ஒத்துழைப்பு, எல்லாம் வந்து கரமால நிற்பாங்க. அங்கே மிஷின் வேலை செய்கிறப்போ அவங்களுக்கு என்ன பாவம், அந்த கிராமத்தில் இருக்கிறவங்க போய் அந்த மிஷின் ஆப்ரேட்டருக்கு மிக்சரு டீ இதெல்லாம் வாங்கிட்டு வந்து கொடுப்பாங்க. அந்த அளவுக்கு ஒத்துழைப்பு இருக்குது. அதே மாதிரி எல்லா ஊரும் இருந்ததுன்னா முதல்ல இந்த நீர்நிலைகள் சரி செய்கிற விஷயம் அதனால் நல்லா நடக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
அடுத்ததாக காலநிலை இயக்குனர் திருமதி சுப்ரியா ஜூன் வாலா அவர்கள் பருவநிலை மாற்றம் குறித்து பேசிய சிறப்புரையை காணலாம்.
The improvement in access to water, 3,000 farmer incomes will go up because now they can grow more crops. And this brings me to the point of how water underpins all our sustainable development goals. If you don't have water, you cannot do sanitation. It affects malnourishment. It affects everything, right? Each and every of our 17 sustainable developmental goals are underpinned by water. So we are very grateful to have a good partner like this. And Dr. Jayashree and I spoke last year and we said, what do we do to make this more comprehensive? Because as one corporate, we can support a few lakes, right? But let's get together and make a complete strategy and action plan from where we, for the cities we operate in. So this is how this plan has come about. Like we've come up with they've consulted several stakeholders, had an earlier meeting which I've come for, individual departments, experts as yourselves. And they've come up with a strategy and action plan, but now this is the beginning. My request to everyone on the dais and to everyone in the audience is, now this is your plan. We have to take this forward. It shouldn't end at the release. Let's take it forward. One of the things we can do is look at where the gaps are. Which are the other lakes that need to be worked on? What, do we need to work on groundwater recharge? Look at the plan. Everything's covered in that. And who's there? If there's a government department there, is there a line department there? Where can the corporates come in? Where can other people come in? Where can the not-for-profits come in? So it's very important to work comprehensively and do that gap filling and work together, because we are challenged both by flood and drought. You run out of water, then in the same area you have floods. So it's more of a management issue. It's the beauty of nature is that if we take care of it, we get tenfold back. And especially in a country like India, where so many livelihoods depend on forests, so many livelihoods depend on agriculture. So we really need to underpin all the ecosystems that support it, and give the services to help and also to keep people out of poverty. So my thesis at Cambridge was on ecosystem services for poverty elevation. So we found that forest would actually give more returns to the local community than Manarega. Because you would get, fruits, you would get mushrooms, you would get food, you would get place for your goats to graze, you'd get water. So where you remove the forest, the water went down and people had to start importing water. So especially in a country like India, these natural ecosystems that we're trying to restore, like lake, their surrounding forests, they are keeping people out of poverty.
நார்த்வெஸ்ட் குழுமத்தில் சுற்றுச்சூழல் மற்றும் வளர்ந்து வரும் சிக்கல்கள் குறித்து கேர் எர்த் ட்ரஸ்ட் மூத்த ஆராய்ச்சியாளர் அஞ்சனா வெங்கடேசன் அவர்கள் பேசிய உரையை காணலாம்.
The first is water risk as a concept has varied expression and understanding among people. So in our working definition, we decided to go with the OECD's definition of water risk, which was very simply risk of too much, too little, pollution, or risk to freshwater systems. And this is a very simple working definition that we can always go back to check about water risk. And what we found that all of these were expressed by people, be it online or in person. everyone perceived their water risk to be very different. So when we interviewed organizations, some of them said heat wave is our biggest threat, some said floods, some said cyclone. It was all the gamut of problems were expressed by people across the board. Second is there seems to be wide consensus on increasing extreme weather events. Again, whoever we spoke to, be it people on ground or otherwise, everyone said 100% we feel that in our lived experience, extreme weather events have been increasing. This was another thing that came about in our conversations is differing approaches and views on labor and livelihoods, because concepts like just transitions are picking up in the West. But when we approached organizations, there was a very different approach. People didn't really identify it as something, a problem that should be addressed. And finally, this was one of the standout kind of findings is across the board, everyone wanted more public space, they wanted more greenery, and they wanted more clean water. It was both an urgent demand, but also an aspiration for the future. When we asked people, what do you want? They said greenery and water and public space for our kids to play in. This emerged as a very strong point across the board. So this was what I meant in the first slide as well, that when we think of maybe public space, or greenery or planting tree, maybe it doesn't tie into climate change now, but it can be an aspiration and it can be a tool in climate adaptation going forward. What we learned on the ground. So this is based on our surveys in the 4 locations, and a part of it was in the video, but I would like to elaborate further. First is climate awareness and articulation. So this was one of the instances where I said we had a suspicion, but we wanted to get it confirmed, as every researcher should. Back in 2021, when I was conducting interviews in Dindigul and Nilgiris for a project, I was sitting in a fully women FGD, and I asked them, what are you noticing and everything? And one woman said, I notice that the monsoon period is changing, duration and occurrence, very specifically, very categorically. So for a long time, we've been thinking, we talk a lot about climate literacy, climate awareness, but our own idea is that no one knows it better than people who are actually on the ground. So do we need to teach people what climate change is, or are we looking for more knowledge on adaptation? And this was what we found, and as you saw in the video as well, when we asked people, Kalanilai Maatramna enna, Parvanilai Maatramna enna, they said, we don't know. And then when we asked, what do you think about the weather, the seasons? As you noticed in the video, everyone has very incisive answers on the changes they're noticing, be it extreme weather events, be it duration, be it intensity, be it seasonal. There is a lot of grassroots understanding and articulation. So our whole approach to climate awareness, to say that we need to give people awareness, we need to probably relook at that. Because if someone can say that minna Pattinambakam beach 45 nimisham eduthu ipo 10 nimisham edukkurது, that's something I don't know. I go to the beach, I eat sundal, I come back. I am not calculating the erosion levels that's happening. So if someone from a fishing community can say that, maybe we need to check our biases about what constitutes climate awareness.
சென்னைக்கான வெள்ள ஆபத்து நடவடிக்கைகள் திட்டம் குறித்து முன்னாள் தமிழ்நாடு வனத்துறை அதிகாரி முனைவர் என் கிருஷ்ணகுமார் அவர்கள் மேற்குறிப்பிட்டுள்ள குறிப்புகள் உங்களுக்காக.
Today, in a growing city like Chennai, we have issues of sewage treatment, we have problems of green belt development, we have space constraints, we have flooding, we have what do we do today? Good thoughts like sponge parks in OSR. They're all new themes. The sponge parks in OSR is looking for areas when a township or a apartment is developing, the OSR that they are going to give, how do we really develop it as a water source? And then of course, what is really important is open spaces. Open space just not for children to play around, their own health, etc. Health itself becomes a very important issue. So health in greenery, that becomes very important. It becomes very important for us because we are now looking into environmental impact assessment when we look for any development. And this sort of a document, how do we really build in the essence of this into an environmental impact assessment is what I am looking. Probably when we think of giving quality ECs as implementable ECs, measurable ECs. This sort of a document probably becomes important. So now it's time, we need balanced development. We need sustainable development. And how is it that we need to do this? Probably it's the right time that when we talk so much about climate change, water risk could be a measurable unit. Let's take water scarcity, safe drinking water as a unit for prosperous living, sustainable living, and see how best we can work on this thing. Because anything around our life in Chennai or in rural area, anywhere, revolves around water. And if this point is taken home very seriously, that life depends on water and without water there's nothing, then probably I've heard grandma stories, my own grandmother telling us as to how important it is. But today we don't have grandmothers to narrate about the importance of water. That becomes the problem. So what we really require is the connect between such ecological resources, taking it out to students and teachers who are probably the next generation. There's no point in just telling that everything, we can't leave everything to the students. It's also our responsibility to see how best we pass on this information. We have issues of river spates, we have issues of wetlands getting choked, we have issues of plastics everywhere, we have inundation problems in housing areas, apartments, and particularly when we have floods, and only then we get to know what happens to these huge apartments where there has been no planning process. So in this whole thing, the most important thing is planning. So we have documents like this. The second issue comes implementation. Implementation just not by just an NGO or somebody, holistic implementation involving everybody. See, now 22nd March we'll have the World Water Day, then we'll have the World Forestry Day. UN has probably declared every day for some environmental understanding. It's not just enough that we start again discussing about water on the 22nd and forget of March and then start forgetting about it.
சென்னை நீர் மேலாண்மைக்கான செயல் திட்டம் குறித்தும் சுற்றுச்சூழல் பாதுகாப்பு குறித்தும் பசுமை தாயகத்தின் தலைவர் முனைவர் திருமதி சௌமியா அன்புமணி அவர்கள் பேசிய பொன்மொழிகளை காணலாம்.
Whenever we talk about a city, any city or a civilization needs water body. Few years back I read a document about Angkor. It is in Cambodia, and where it was a very developed city in 12th to 15th century. That time it was a very developed city with more population and a lot of infrastructure than London. So when they compared London to Angkor, what was different was Angkor didn't have a permanent water body. So people had to leave that, or due to political circumstances, Angkor was deserted. It vanished from the face of earth. But London has grown because it was a permanent water body, like Thames was there. So it is imperative that we should keep our water body intact and safe for the city to continue. Chennai is like a city, it is like a country. Everyone knows the population is so vast. We have to plan for a country. If you plan for Chennai, that means you are planning for something like Belgium or New Zealand, because the population is very less, but we have to plan like that. And we are very much blessed with so many water bodies. Kosastalayar is, I think North Chennai is blessed with Kottalayar, and Central Chennai is blessed with Kuvam, and South Chennai is blessed with Adayar, and we have lots of lakes, Chembrambakam, Pural, Pundi, so much. And what went wrong? Why we are still suffering from water shortage and flood? Because beautiful drainage system in marsh, Pallikarne marshland and all, because whenever rainwater falls, it has to fill the rivers, lakes, then ponds, and it has to come to the tanks in the villages. But we have all built our buildings, and everything is Erithitam. Whatever we have done is, it is a lake. Lake மேல தான் வீடு கட்டுறதோ, even government offices are built on top of lakes, and even housing, big housing projects, but no place. What to do? More than 1/8 of the state's population is living in Chennai. How do we house them? And 40 lakhs of floating population. Where do we put them, or where do we give them homes? So wherever we could find place, we had housed them. Now we are facing the brunt of the situation. Flood is there, drought is there. So guest of honor was telling we have to have breathing space. So that now from Pasumai Thayagam we had one beautiful plan. I don't know whether it will be implemented or not, but we were talking because the Coimbatore bus stand is almost 30 to 40 acres of land. It has been shifted to Kilambakam, so the bus stand is going to be empty. Now they are proposing to build a mall. But we said, why do we need a mall? We should make it big parks. Every big city has big in Bangalore we have Kappan Park. In New Delhi we have big parks. In Chennai we don't have a big park at all. Wherever it is a small neighborhood park. We should have a bigger park with so that health of the people, mental health and physical health of the people is we can address to it. So we were proposing a project saying, make that Coimbatore bus stand, which is now defunct, into a park, so that people in that surrounding area will come and have some breathing space. Lots of plants can be planted there, and even we can address the carbon issue or ozone issue. Everything can be at least a bit of some respite. And how do we reclaim our water resources? Kuvam is there, we all know that Kuvam water is so drinkable when it is coming from that original place. But now we can't stand near it. But it is a good water. It is still now used for agriculture. They were using it for drinking and in temples also. But once it enters a city, you can't even look at it. Forget about drinking from it. That is the Kuvam. So what do we do about it? It's a dream project of reclaiming those water bodies. But many other cities have done it, like Korea, Japan, they have done it. But நம்ம ஊர்ல அது பண்ண முடியுமா? Because lack of resources are there. But when we could spend, one rainwater is coming and we are not able to store one drop of it. But when it goes, it doesn't get flow back to the Karanai and Tangals, but it goes back to the sea. From the sea again we desalinization, 20,000 crores of rupees we spent for that one drop of pristine rainwater. After that desalinization pannita, then we drink it. So that maybe those projects and all, whether it is viable, I don't know, but at least we should think about creating dream projects where we can reclaim our good water bodies. We are circle, the 2 kilometer, 5 kilometer circle has to be not given to any other factories or any other chemical producing industry. So that also we are fighting. So many things we have to address, but we have to take a positive step towards it, and we have lots of hope because people are thinking about it. Before the knowledge was not there, the technical know-how was not there. Oh, what to do when you want building, then we'll build somewhere. But now at least we'll think about it. Okay, whether it is okay to build here or not build here. So at least that is there. So we have to make some noise, and we have to work together, NGOs or governments or local administrations or any other body. We have to work together and make some noise about it, and at least we have to think about mitigation or adaptation or viable project, reducing our vulnerability. Everything is there. Even personal, individual also have to think about it. How whenever we know flood is going to come, we know it will fall 400 millimeters of rainfall in one day. That also is happening. 950 millimeter number rainfall na 1050 millimeters kadakide. Appadi irundom why we are suffering? I don't know. This is madness, and we have to work on it, and hopefully even individuals as well as we NGOs and with the government, we create good projects, viable projects, so that we save our water and reclaim our water or build more green.
வாழ்க்கை ஒரு முறைதான், அது மீண்டும் நமக்கு கிடைத்து விடாது. எனவே காலத்தை சரியாக பயன்படுத்தி கொண்டு சித்தமாய் இருக்க வேண்டும் என்பதே எங்களின் வேண்டுகோள். மீண்டும் இது போன்ற ஒரு அருமையான நிகழ்ச்சியில் உங்களை சந்திக்கும் வரை உங்களிடமிருந்து விடைபெறுவது சரண்யா. நன்றி, வணக்கம்.